There's a moment that happens quietly, usually late at night, where someone opens Zillow, scrolls through homes they can't quite afford, and convinces themselves that buying one will finally fix everything about their financial life. Not just money, but stability, identity, even peace. And on another screen, maybe in another apartment across the city, someone else is staring at their brokerage account thinking the exact same thing about stocks. Two completely different paths, but the same underlying belief. This is the thing that will make me rich. My name is Daniel, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart people keep asking the wrong question when it comes to money. Because the real question isn't whether real estate or stocks make you richer. It's why two people can choose different paths, follow them for 30 years, and still end up completely different financially, even if the math says they shouldn't. Here's where it starts to get uncomfortable. If you strip everything down to raw numbers, stocks win. Not slightly, not debatably, decisively. Over long periods of time, the stock market compounds faster, more consistently, and with far less friction than real estate ever has. And yet, when you look at real people instead of spreadsheets, homeowners consistently end up wealthier than renters. That contradiction shouldn't exist. A weaker performing asset somehow producing stronger real-world outcomes. It doesn't make logical sense at first glance. But then you start noticing something subtle. People don't experience money mathematically, they experience it behaviorally. And behavior quietly rewrites every equation you thought you understood. Think about how someone buys stocks. It's optional, flexible. You can invest this month, skip next month, pull money out whenever life feels uncertain. It feels like freedom, but that same freedom quietly introduces inconsistency. One bad news headline, one market drop, one moment of doubt, and suddenly a long-term strategy turns into a short-term reaction. Not because the asset failed, but because the person did. Now compare that to a house. A mortgage doesn't ask how you feel this month. It doesn't care about market volatility or your mood. It shows up every 30 days like a bill you cannot ignore. And without realizing it, something strange happens. What felt like a financial burden turns into a forced discipline. Every payment quietly builds equity, not because you're motivated, but because you're locked in. And this is where the story shifts in a way most people don't expect. Real estate doesn't outperform stocks because it's a better investment. It often doesn't. It outperforms because it removes your ability to sabotage yourself. That's a very different kind of advantage. Now, layer in something else people misunderstand: leverage. When someone buys a $500,000 home, they're rarely putting up $500,000. They're controlling a large asset with a relatively small amount of their own money. And when that asset increases, even slightly, the gain feels amplified. A modest increase in home value suddenly looks like a massive return on the cash they actually invested. And this is where people start getting emotionally convinced that real estate is superior. Not because of long-term data, but because of how the gains feel. A few good years and it starts to look like you've cracked some secret formula. But here's the part no one likes to sit with. Leverage doesn't just magnify gains, it magnifies mistakes. When things go wrong, they don't go wrong slowly. They go wrong in a way that traps you. This is why the same system that makes someone feel rich on the way up can make them feel stuck on the way down. And unlike stocks, where you can exit in seconds, real estate ties you to a decision. You can't just wake up one morning and say, "I'm done." There are costs, time delays, emotional friction. And that friction cuts both ways. It protects you from panic, but it also limits your flexibility. And somewhere in the middle of all this, most people completely ignore the real cost of ownership. Not the purchase price, not the appreciation, the ongoing invisible drain. Property taxes that never stop, insurance that keeps rising quietly in the background, maintenance that shows up unpredictably, often at the worst possible time. These aren't dramatic expenses, which is exactly why they're dangerous. They don't hit all at once. They drip over years, slowly eating into what people think they've made. And the human brain does something fascinating here.
It remembers the headline number, the house that doubled in price, but it forgets the thousands spent maintaining it. The mind celebrates the visible gain and quietly erases the invisible cost. Stocks, on the other hand, feel the opposite. Every drop is visible. Every fluctuation feels like a problem, but the costs? Almost non-existent in comparison. And because the pain is more visible than the benefit, people end up distrusting the very thing that mathematically serves them better. This is where it gets even more interesting, because the biggest difference between these two paths isn't return, it's personality. Some people need structure. They need something that forces consistency because they know they won't maintain it on their own. For them, real estate works, not because it's optimal, but because it's restrictive. It limits their ability to make emotional decisions. Other people need flexibility. They don't want to deal with maintenance, location constraints, or long-term commitments tied to a physical asset. For them, stocks work better, but only if they can handle volatility without reacting. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. The wrong choice isn't picking real estate or stocks. The wrong choice is switching between them at the worst possible times. The person who invests consistently for 30 years almost always wins. The person who jumps between strategies, reacting to fear and hype, almost always loses. Not because of bad assets, but because of broken behavior patterns. Right around this point, if you're starting to see things differently, this is where I'd normally say just subscribe if you want more videos like this, where we actually break down money in real life, not just on paper. Because the deeper you go, the more you realize this entire debate, real estate versus stocks, is actually kind of misleading. It sounds like a financial question, but it's actually a psychological one. It's about how you handle uncertainty, how you respond to pressure, whether you need discipline imposed on you or whether you can create it yourself. And once you see it that way, something shifts. The goal stops being which one is better and becomes which one will I actually stick with when things get uncomfortable. Because that's the real test. Not when everything is going up, but when it's not, when the market drops, when expenses rise, when doubt creeps in quietly. That's the moment that decides everything. So which one will make you richer? Stocks will likely grow your money faster over time. Real estate will likely control your behavior more effectively over time. And the outcome you get will depend less on the asset and more on which version of yourself shows up consistently for the next 20 or 30 years. That's not the answer most people want. It's not as clean, not as exciting, but it's the one that actually plays out in real life. And if you've made it this far, you probably already know which side you lean towards, even if you haven't admitted it yet. So before you pick an asset, ask yourself something more important. Are you the kind of person who needs a system that forces you to stay disciplined, or are you the kind of person who can stay disciplined without being forced? Because that answer will quietly determine your financial future more than any investment ever will. And if you're honest about it, you won't just pick the right asset. You'll finally pick the right strategy for who you actually are. If you found this perspective useful, subscribe because we're going to keep breaking down money in ways most people don't think about. And now I'm curious, if you had to choose today, which one do you trust more with your future? Your discipline or the system forcing you to stay consistent?